So let us now create a method. So the first method that we'll be looking at and we'll be creating is what we know as a magic method, and that magic method represents the class. The first magic method that we'll be using is known as the constructor. So we'll be using this magic method, and it comes as a built-in method inside PHP. So let's use that. So we're just going to use the magic method as if we're using a similar function inside our procedural PHP, but this time it will be a little different than the previous times. So let's create this public function. So these are the two. The first one is the access modifier, and the second one is obviously the keyword. I hope you know that. And then it is followed by, so whenever I place this first underscore, PHP, this IDE automatically starts displaying all the magic methods. So you can actually see that there are quite a number of them. So because a construct is one of the magic methods, it has an opposite one. The opposite method is known as the destruct method. The first one that we'll be looking at is how to use this construct method. Now the construct magic method is a built-in method and it represents the class. So let's see how does it represent the class. So we'll be using construct, and our construct will simply, for the first part, will keep this thing simple. So the construct method, let's actually pass in a parameter. So let's create the parameter of name, and what we will be doing is we'll be passing in name, and we will store, we'll be using this scope, and this scope will be referencing, and there we go. So what we have done in here is that the first thing, we declared a property which is also a variable, and that has got the public access modifier. And the second thing that we have done is to declare and define a function, a magic method inside our class. So this magic method construct, double underscore construct, actually represents the class itself. Before, in PHP 4, we had to use the exact name of the class. So if we used the name as in here we have used the post output identifier for our class. Now in PHP 4 it would have looked something like this: post output. So as you can see, my ID, the NetBeans ID, is actually making the code bold, which is telling me that this is a representative function of this class that we named as post output. Now in the newer versions of PHP, after the release of PHP 5.1.2, then the PHP 5.3 and all the other versions that came after it, it actually deprecated the usage of the exact name of the class, but instead it replaced it with the construct magic method. So now we have got this construct magic method. So yep, so that's what we are doing in here. The first thing, and inside this function, the first thing that we are doing is to return the value after storing the name inside this post. So let's actually demonstrate it using by creating an object. The first thing that we have done in here is to create a class. Now I have talked about shorter tags, shorter PHP tags in here. So if you really want to use shorter PHP tags, the first thing that you need to do is to go to your source files, this folder. The name is it's known as the source files, in which your post.php script is housed. So go to this file, source files, and right click on it, and then click on properties. So inside properties, what you need to do is to allow this click this allow short tags. If you click this allow short tag, you can actually use shorter tags like this, rather than using less than symbol followed by a question mark and the PHP. You just can use this less than symbol and question mark for the starting, and end it with a following question mark and a greater than symbol. So your code, because it's allowed, these short tags are allowed, you can actually omit this part and your code would still run. But in conventions like set by WordPress, if you're trying to develop a theme for WordPress, you obviously need PHP as your programming language to create all the logics behind the workings of things. So WordPress does not allow such short tags. You need to use full-fledged PHP tags. So to ensure that you do not mistakenly use any sort of short tags, just disallow it and then click OK. So it will do this trick, and you will have to use this so that your web page renders out properly. Now, because we are not creating a web page right now exactly, we'll be looking at that in the later sections of this video. But in this case, what we have done right now is we have created a simple plan for our post output class. So this simple plan lays out the foundation of how to create an object using this class. So we have created the theoretical plan, but it does not exactly exist inside our memory, so it has no real existence. To create an object out of this plan, what we need to do is, because we haven't used any sort of static declaration, we need to take this path. The first form that we'll be looking at is how to instantiate the object. To instantiate this object, what we need to do is first use a variable. So let's create a variable called maybe post and then followed by the assignment operator, and the new thing that we need to do in here is to use the new keyword. As you can see, my ID is already showing me the new keyword, and this needs to be followed by, as you can already see, it needs to be followed by the class. So what this class inside this ID is doing is it's retrieving the class name of post_output. So this retrieves the class name, but inside, when previously we have created this class, we haven't included any sort of parenthesis, because I've already told you this class does not perform or work or execute like a function. But in here, what we see is that we look at this post output class and we see that it needs to have a parameter. So let's click on this, and as you can see, if we click on this, it needs to be used with a parameter. Why is that different than our class declaration? It's not exactly a different thing. What it is doing, it's going inside the plan. This compiler behind this ID is going inside the plan, and it looks at the functions, it looks at the properties. So when it encounters the first function or method in object-oriented sense, when it encounters the first method, it sees that the method we have created is a magic built-in PHP method. So because it's a magic built-in PHP method, it then looks at the name of this method. So when it sees that it has got 2 underscore followed by the name or identifier construct, it then immediately recognizes the code. So how does it even understand? What this construct is telling is that construct this class into an object for me. So the compiler reads something like this: construct this class into an object. So because this as I've already told you, this method, this underscore construct magic method represents the class, this compiler goes inside the code and looks at the representation. And because it's a representation, or it acts like the ambassador, we can directly use the post output class name along with the parenthesis, and it exactly works like a function. We just need to use the new keyword to tell the computer that you need to allocate a certain amount of memory for this new class or object that I'm creating. So in this case, what we are doing is we are now instantiating the object, and we'll be looking at the object operator. We haven't yet looked at we did actually use the object operator, but we haven't thoroughly looked at it. The first step that we have taken for creating the object is we have already instantiated the object. Once we instantiate the object, we get a specific memory allocation inside our RAM. So in this case, we already have created an object out of our blueprint or out of our class. So we have first theoretically described what a class can do. It has got one property and one magic method, and then we have instantiated the class, or we have created an object and we have stored that object inside a variable. Now we need to pass along something like a name inside this post output. So let's actually